What's up, guys? It's Ricky, and on this particular episode I wanted to talk about the so-called curse of TB Joshua. You'll remember a few months back, about 6 months ago, the BBC documentary came out exposing TB Joshua and all his televangelistic shenanigans and all them kind of things, and all kinds of things came out from that. Now, if you do remember, it was a couple of parts, and then Sihle was in that documentary. And so she then had a loss of a child, and then people came out, touch not my anointed. When you touch the anointed, so and so happens. And then people started stitching videos claiming that the people who were in the documentary are suffering because of the curse of touching the anointed one. Now, on this video, I want us to go and read the context of that verse, the touch not my anointed. But first of all, you might see that another portion of this title of this video says that this curse must be very weak because Sihle, who was in the documentary, has been doing well career-wise. You'll know that recently she just landed a second television show. Okay, she did have another show before called Fake Marriages. Now she has another show called Fake Pastors, and that's the one that I want us to talk about. It's the Christianity Show, the daily Christian commentary videos. If it's your first time over here, to be sure, check out the other videos that are down in the pinned comments, and I'm gonna check you out over them. So, as I mentioned, that this curse, as people put it, it's very recent. I didn't even know about the show. I think I only saw it when someone posted a small little clip on Facebook, and that's how I knew about this particular show. And so the Fake Marriage television show that Sihle is doing with Moja Love right now, you'll know, has been running for a minute. If you haven't seen it, this one right here, I did make an episode talking about it. And so if the curse was effective, the opposite is happening. She is now a media personality. Okay, and that then birthed this particular episode which I'm talking about, which is called False Pastors and stuff like that. So we're gonna watch a portion of this show and see what's going on, or what's the guan, what's the fuss with this particular show, and then we'll go and read that chapter on Touch Not My Anointed. So I'm gonna pack all that in this episode so that the next time someone quotes that, you must know that they are manipulating you. That's not what the verse actually is even saying. Now someone will say, Ricky, are you saying? Yes, I am saying. Don't worry, we marked it up here. We're gonna look at the chapter in its full context, and we'll look at the two of them, the one in Psalms and the one that appears in Chronicles. And so let's start off by listening to a bit of this show so we can grasp what kind of charlatans are we dealing with over there.
Sihle Sibisi.
Let me just explain it.
Okay.
When you are called
Yes.
by God,
Yes.
God reveals to you.
So ningabantu fish oil.
So some, when they drink the anointing oil, because they have evil spirits,
Okay.
then the evil spirit will start to be uncomfortable in
Okay.
their bodies.
Okay.
And some will start to manje uyavomita. Bakhona abanye ba
So the from drinking the oil.
So when you're sandazela,
yeah, angithi you are in my camp.
I'm in your camp. Kuluma mama.
And when I'm here, I'm not playing.
You're not playing.
Nobody's paying.
Nobody's
I
paying.
don't sell oil.
You don't sell oil.
I don't sell amatenda.
You don't sell.
Hair repeating. This makes it worse.
We have parents who are crying that they haven't seen their children for years and months because Pipa, I'm told Pipa is the name they called you, or Mada, has taken their children, and the children are staying in the church.
Yeah, here for that.
Families are crying to say their children sold their house, they left their jobs, they are now staying here because you told them They need to cut off from relationship with their family members because their family members are demons.
Okay, what happened in the back for them to start?
Mina ngizanga ukuzola. Ngilethe umzali onenkinga.
Oh, okay. So when the parent walked in, the church then had a reaction to her. That tells you something. That tells you that she had been talking about this lady. You know, the pastor had been talking about them, and in a way that it's like that one, she's possessed by the devil. So when she walks in, they're like, it's that one, because we've heard the case. It's sad.
According to your ministry, is that what you do?
Okay, it's not what I do.
So the mother is not telling the truth. Yeah. You didn't tell us.
They're not
No,
paying.
I'm being positive. Sorry, it's my first time. Are they praying?
Can you respect me? You're in my camp.
Oh, are they praying? Okay, they're praying.
In my camp.
Why are they here?
No. I'm here for mommy.
Oh,
So here, what's happening? They are praying. So when you don't tear up families.
Is she the lawyer? Yeah, lawyers. Hey, stick their nose everywhere.
You don't cause division in families.
I don't tear up families. I don't cause division.
Here's the mother.
It means
Mama, here's the mother.
Isikhathi esiningi anginaso mama.
Moya wami ulimazile kakhulu. Uyakwazi umonakalo osuwenzile. Umonakalo osudalile emndenini wami. Ngumama kaSifiso mina. Ngazi noSihle beza noSihle la. Umonakalo owudalile umntwana akaseze ekhaya. Umntwana masikhuluma naye asakwazi ukuthi yini esikhulumayo nesingayikhulumi naye. Kufanele ahlale engitshela ukuthi esontweni lokho akuvumeleki lokho akuvumeleki. Umntana mangimazi ukuthi usebenza apho usasebenza or akasasebenzi ini ufihla yonkinto ngoba ethe esontweni akuvumelekanga lokho. uSifiso ngisho efike endlini kwami usesaba ngisho ukudla into engimnikeza yona.
So the child is not even eating home because they are restricting different types of foods and whatever. Dodgy, man. In this case, I guess they were dealing with a division of a family. The decisions of the mother at the household are not being, respected, and the church is telling the kids whatnot. So I had not watched the episode. So I wanted to watch it right here when I'm filming this episode. And so let's read this book, because I can remember this show we're not really reviewing the show. We are just talking about on this. Maybe we'll review it. You can tell me down in the comment section if you want us to talk about what's happening in the show, when it comes to parenting and the church and stuff like that. But on this episode, we are talking about Sihle and the curse that was declared by members saying, hey, she'll be cursed for talking BBC, hele. And they based it on Touch Not My Anointed, or the Touch Not My Anointed phenomenon, as you might actually call it. So let's go through Colossians. Actually, let's start with the Psalms one. The Psalms one, I feel like it's an easier go-to because there are very few verses that actually are on this. And so you'll see that portion of verse is around Psalms 105, verse number 15. It says, say, do not touch my anointed ones and do my prophets no harm. And so this particular portion of verse is not here without any other context. Killer one. Psalm 83, this is what it says. Keep not silent. Keep not thy silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies, these are his enemies. They are not our enemies. They are his enemies. They've declared their war against God. Make turmoil. And they say, they that hate thee, notice, they that hate thee have lifted up their heads, meaning pride. Okay, they're very proud. So the idea of lifting up their head there means that. And so when you go forward with it, they that lift up their heads they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thine holy ones. This is not only to the pastor, to the people of God. So we need that context. Touch not that anointed ones. We have context that the people of God are the anointed ones. In this case, in Psalms, was talking about the Jews. Okay? It's talking about Israel. We need that context. And so when people say this, they, first of all, don't remember that the people of God are the anointed ones. And in the particular book that they are reading, Psalms is talking about Israel particularly. Now, look at the full context when you go further into it, okay? If you read even just, how many verses? 5 verses before. If you go back to verse number 9, then it says, thine covenant which he made with Abraham, and his oath to Isaac, and confirmed to Jacob for his statutes, to Israel as the everlasting covenant. So the chapter, when you read it from the top, it's very clear the context is Israel. Right? And then it goes on, it says, as the his inheritance, and it says, when they were few in number, Israel, not the prophets. When Israel was few, right? When they were few in number, indeed very few, and strangely in it, when they went from one nation to another, from one kingdom to a people, he permitted no one to do them. He permitted no one to do them wrong. Israel as a whole. Yes, he rebuked kings for their sake, not the prophets, the people, Israel as a nation. Then he says, saying, do not touch my anointed ones and do my prophets no harm. Israel was his mouthpiece. We ought to remember this. Israel was his mouthpiece because he portrayed heavenly culture through them. Israel was supposed to be the one that carried the message of God. The focus was never the person. The focus was always God. Okay? Make known his deeds among his people. Sing to him. Sing praises to him. Talk of all his wonderful works. It is God who is the center in this verse. Okay? Glory in his holy name. Okay? Then you go down. Seek the Lord and his strength. Not the prophet. We seek the Lord. Seek his face evermore. Remember his marvelous work which he has done. His wonderful and his wonders and judgment of his mouth. O Israel, O seed of Israel, his servant, your children, Jacob, you children of Jacob, his chosen ones. There it goes again, within the very context of that chapter. Okay? Then you read further, and he is the Lord our God, his judgment. So the context that they used when they manipulated the world into believing that the anointed meant one person was not considering that the people were the anointed as well. And in the context of Psalms, in the context of First Chronicles and so forth, Israel also is seen as the anointed. And so when you say that particular statement to justify that wrong things, bad things will happen to people, you have to remember that in the back of your mind. because they use that a lot. They will use this verse, they will use First Chronicles, or they will use First Chronicles, or they will use Psalms, or they will use maybe other verses and so forth in order for them to think of this. But it's important to understand the context around the verse itself, which is being used to say that, hey, you better not talk against the pastor, or better not talk against the prophet. The verse in its full context was not just about a person. Israel was the anointed, and you see it in Psalms 83, where he talks about them as the hidden ones. And in the context of Psalms, that Israel was the one that he was in clear reference of. And he never allowed them to do them no harm. It's clearly a group, not just the group of the prophets. Okay, let's not seek specialty amongst. Okay, and so why am I doing this video? To dismiss this particular idea that finds itself amongst many people. Many people tend to believe this thing without realizing that this stuff is not biblical. Okay, stuff is not biblical. Okay, life happens. Someone might stumble into hard times. Someone might step into a terrible period in their life, but that does not mean that it's now God is just like against this. Life happens that a person will have difficulty. To say that this is happening because this person said something against a pastor, that's not biblical. That's not necessarily. Life happens. It can happen to you. Life can happen to anybody. Okay, and so I wanted to come back here and say, within its context, Israel was also the anointed ones. And you will remember, even in 1 John, the people who are part of the church are the anointed ones. Okay? It's not just one individual. But why do they seek to use it in that context? It's so that you look at, the men of God. The men of God. As if what is the rest of us? What are we? Yeah, I'll come down with that. Okay? And so, wanted to make this particular episode so that we can remember biblically this idea of touch not my anointed is being used like that without full context. Now you can't expect charlatans to use the Bible in context. Those people are dodgy. They are dodgy for a living. And so they have no reference of context. When you speak about touch not my anointed, the people are the anointed. So if the anointed one, so-called anointed man of God, is doing wrong to the other anointed, what makes that right? You have a problem. Okay? And so this is just a reminder. Don't fall for this mentality of exalting people far above where they ought to be. People will have careers after you. Yeah, people will meet you, do you wrong, and still have a life after. Because those people are responsible for other people. Sihle as a child, she has to take care of a child. And so, bad things happen there. So that what? You benefit what from that? It's childish. Yeah, it's like kids running around with a tantrum. I'll need the Bible. That's childish. We should not be thinking like that. But it's Ricky. Wanted to come back here so that we can put a little bit of context around the subject. Hope this video does benefit, and I'll see you on a later on episode. Y'all have a good one.